Government officials from CARICOM states and the Dominican Republic have converged in Belize for a 5-day training course in public procurement. The objective of the CARIFORUM European Union Capacity Building Project is to support member states with beneficial integration in the world economy, specifically competition, procurement, and customs and trade facilitation. Top on the agenda was procurement reform and bilateral trade agreements.
It's really to understand, first of all, what is procurement? Because procurement talks about transparency. Is there a process? Is there a team that does evaluation of, is there a bidding process? Is it competitive? In other words, when you're procuring the services and you're bidding, is there every intention objectively to ensure that you get the best services, as they would say, the best value for money? Because at the eventual outcome, the benefit to any society will then have to be that whatever you have procured, whether it's services to build a street or to build a, whatever it is, it should provide a greater benefit, and the greater benefit should be on a long-term basis. But it should eliminate, like I said, it goes through procedures, whatever those procedures are. It goes through a strong evaluation of those procedures, and of course, very competitively. And when you make that determination and the successful applicant or the successful bidder is informed, they would have gone through all that process.
Essentially, the participants who represent government ministries and agencies will develop international best practices for accountability and good governance through procurement of services and goods. According to Adrian Chin, reform will include capacity building, implementation of electronic systems, and a robust training program that must be championed by a political directorate.
We look at development of international best practices in procurement. We also go into the procurement cycle, looking at how participants and how procurement professionals manage procurement from a thought to execution, to looking back at their process, to feedback into another thought that they need a solution. Then we go further over into the elements of the CARICOM regime and the EPA, that is the Economic Partnership Agreement between CARIFORUM states and the European Union.
In Belize, as many other countries, there is no procurement unit. So what procedures are being employed to ensure that corruption does not creep in the process?
There should be no bias. There should be no insider trading, because what it simply means that every entity that bids should be looked at, A, B, C, etc. It doesn't have anything to do with name association. Of course, name will come with companies, and they will send in their bidding for the services, what it's going to cost. And as soon as the entity has been selected, it becomes a public. In other words, it becomes a publication. If you look in the newspapers sometimes, you can see that, okay, XYZ was selected, the others were not selected. That's a transparent process. And too often, it does not have to be the highest bidder or the lowest bidder. It's the most successful bidder.
In terms of the bidding process and the dynamics between local businesses and international companies, Dr. Leroy Almendarez says that standards must not be compromised.
The harmonized policy will be looking at a certain threshold. Certain thresholds will be set where the procurement will be primarily domestic. In other words, let us say, for example, anything below $1 million can be procured locally. But again, we must remember, it does not mean that because you're procuring locally that you compromise or you dilute the standards that are required, because the services or the goods that are being provided must provide the benefit to those beneficiaries who are expected to. Now, above those certain levels, then you put it, in other words, it becomes competitive bidding across member states, or it's international.
Duane, Moody for News 5.